Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with a 9-time GSL champion, the Terran in the red, the man, the myth, the Maru. Facing off against the former world champion Terran in blue, we have Micro Jackson. It's ByuN in a best-of-1 all-Terran showdown as part of Wardi Team League tournament. Before we get started, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button or maybe even subscribe. We kind of the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? Yeah, I know it's a mirror matchup, but it's amazing. I don't know. 1,834 likes on this video, on this cast. I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. As the top 2 Korean Terran players in the history of StarCraft 2, the MVPs, if you would, of people who are clamoring in the comments that you forgot about MVP, Winter. Well, you can make your arguments. But over the last at least 11 years of Legacy of the Void, and sometime before that, both these players at the very tippy top. And we'll see who topples first. But you know, if you're seeing a mirror matchup on this channel with the algorithm actually giving you it in some sort of fashion that wasn't you searching desperately throughout videos you may have missed, it's something special. And from what I understand, this is not the shortest match. Terran versus Terran, historically, the most technical of mirror matchups. The details of individual units, the upgrades, the positioning, and all that other nerd stuff that Terrans are into are all possibly more important than any other matchup, not including mirrors, or not only including mirrors. But it all boils down, if we get past the proxy reaper and SCV rush sort of phase, to one key thing. Like and subscribe. No, air control. Air control is absolutely everything, because Terrans have not one but 2 siege units who are very dependent on both vision and range. The siege tank and the liberator. And the siege tank for obliterating swaths of marines, which would try to counter your liberators, which push and kill siege tanks. But in order to maintain them, things like Vikings and Ravens are needed. Though it might be a little preemptive, though both of them are in production on opposite sides. As Maru has just picked up, he's got a siege tank in there. The Viking hasn't come across, but right now, ByuN has gone for the early Hellion Reaper, a potentially aggressive composition, but is going to be a lot more defensive. He's got interference matrix in production on the tech lab to be able to lock down the siege tank with the Raven, but it's a long way off. He has an auto turret as well. Hellion's getting dangerously close. But this early medevac push, speeding the tank across, this is not intended to kill ByuN, but instead put him in an incredibly uncomfortable position. We'll see if Maru can continue to hold. He's going to try to save the tank. Saving Private, he gets out! And at the last moment, picks up the tank, keeps it together, but wait, there's more! The reinforcements will continue across the map until morale improves, and the Cyclones dueling. The lock-ons are so important. He actually locks onto the tank. He can dodge it with the medevac. He does so. Drops it right back out. There's no auto turret. Pick it up, pick it down. The Vikings on the ground and all around, and he hits one of the Ravens. All this before the interference matrix is done. And almost everything's in the red, but only one of them has SCVs nearby to repair, but it's a finicky process. The Cyclones have a tendency to get pushed into the wrong location very easily when the SCVs are so intimate with it. The orbital is burning. Throughout all this, the siege tank has 0 kills, but it's done terrible, terrible damage. And at the end of the day, it's over. We'll go back to our corners, sleep it off, and get ready for the next round. The chess boxing match of Terran versus Terran explodes into action. And, well, the refractory period here is usually a little bit longer. Not to judge, but Maru shows up, slaps down his tank, says, what are you going to do about it? And apparently ByuN, very little. Doesn't get the tank, doesn't get the medevac. A few sacrificial marines out in front, which were mostly there to make sure he couldn't do those last 2 things. So, already, the jousting has begun. Both sides going for interference matrix on the Ravens. Rarely used, even in TVP. But it allows you to disable, lock down, if you would. I don't know who would, but a mechanical or psionic unit. Now, technically, ghosts are psionic units, but otherwise that is not relevant here. Most of these other units are mechanical, though, and locking down a siege tank, especially while it's in siege mode, because you cannot unsiege. If you cast it on a medevac, it cannot lift or drop or boost. So it has a lot of utility in this matchup. And if you cast it on a Raven, well, there's your counterspell right there. It is of constant and meaningful use in Terran versus Terran at every stage of the game that involves mechanical units, which, unless it's ByuN sometimes, is all of them. There's always siege tanks. There's always medevacs. There's almost always Vikings. And the Ravens mixed in. Also very easily lost if you're not paying attention, since they don't have any sort of auto attack. But despite the bloody nose on both sides and the loose bolts on many of the mechanical units, they'll both get a third base. Maru has a distinct advantage. They're both going for the Marines and the tanks, but Maru has the quicker upgrades with 1-1 already halfway done. ByuN has just started his +1 attack, so a distinct advantage there. And I'm looking for what ByuN has that Maru doesn't. Charming good looks. That is true. Well, it's a matter of scale, but the Cyclones dueling over the open field, mutually assured destruction. They both knock each other out before anyone else can get involved. Maru scanned to make sure he maintained vision. ByuN just had units in position to do so. Maru just has every advantage. He has slightly less Vikings. He has 3 Ravens to 2, 6 tanks to 5. He's going to have 1-1. Possibly before ByuN even has a single upgrade. Combat shield is faster. Stim as well. All right, he can run a mile in 5 minutes. He puts on his pants two legs at a time, unlike any other man. And other important things. He can drink 3 bottles of soju before regretting it instead of just 2. Or 1. But the Ravens and Vikings dueling. ByuN getting a little dramatic. Wait, what did he just pick off? We don't have the battle report, but... Oh. He got a Viking, lost a Raven. They can't run in with the Marines without risking. We have the overlapping scans constantly, and that's just going to become more and more regular, as keeping tabs on exactly where the siege tanks are is not an option. If you do not, then you will lose the game. ByuN was putting up a sensor tower. Just a couple seconds from completion, the interference matrix locks down the tank on the high ground. He's going to scramble one on the low. And I think diffuse this situation quite well, to the point where Maru is now a little bit behind on supply. Do they have armories? They both do, but you can tell the stress of the situation that neither of them started +2 until this engagement kind of dissipated. So once again, Maru shows up, slaps a tank in ByuN's base, but this time, ByuN slaps him right back just as quickly. And the supplies climb upwards, the base count increases, the upgrades are incremented out. And we're no closer to a conclusion. Maru with 2 more starports on the way. Air control. We'll keep coming back to it, looking up to it. As just enough medevacs to heal the occasional stim, and then Vikings and Ravens. If at some point one player loses air control, so even if you have scans, it's not enough. Because even if you can keep vision of the enemy, eventually, and probably very quickly, eventually being like less than a minute, if one player decisively has air control, they'll just build Liberators, and you will not be able to deal with that. With siege tanks to back them up, Liberators and more Vikings, you cannot stop the Liberators. You cannot deal with it. It's not, there's no options there. It's Terran versus Terran. So that is why both players are so concentrated on it. If either player was going to give up on the idea, it would be ByuN, because he has a tendency to do that. Sometimes he tries to substitute Marines, throw them into the meat grinder, and very occasionally it works, but most of the time it just makes for a lot of dramatic ragdolls and post-war depression. But Maru very clearly focused on the technical composition. The biggest weakness is how vulnerable it is if it's out of position. That is why Maru has not 1, not 2, but 3 overlapping sensor towers. He is taking no risk that ByuN. He's constantly scanning. The only weakness here is if he gets jumped with his tanks unsieged. If that happens, he's already setting up another sensor tower. If that happens, he can lose the game almost immediately. But Maru has the better army. ByuN has more mobility. We'll see which one pays off. 9 siege tanks to 11. ByuN with the advantage, but again, 12 Vikings and 5 Ravens to 7 and 2. A second armory on the way, but he's also building 3 more barracks. The weapons of mass production are continuing on both sides. 2 starports for ByuN. That will bring him to just 3. I say just because Maru is going from 3 to 5. He's got 2 factories. The structures tab is taking up an uncomfortable amount of the screen, as they have a smattering of pretty much everything Terran can build, maybe besides a Ghost Academy, but there we are. The Liberator's on the way, and I expect that fateful building, which may have multiple uses, to follow. And Maru is building the... Oh, I really wanted to nail this. But as soon as he sees the Liberators, he's going to build it. And brownie points, if you know what I'm about to say. Hopefully. But first, jockeying for position on the open field. The sensor tower's all over the place. And he scrambles the front line. Interference matrix. Only 1 tank shot gets off. Anti-armor missile. The Ravens coating everything. The first round of interference matrix. There's another Dorito dust. The low ground siege tanks have come unjammed now. The auto turrets helping their way through. But overall, despite the drama, ByuN only losing 1 or 2 tanks and a handful of Marines. And here we are. Alright, where's the fusion core? Oh, it was fusion core. Because with the Liberators, without advanced ballistics, it's a lot harder to push forward. But Maru gonna try to leverage that air control. The Liberator's gonna force the unsiege of the tanks. ByuN, he loses 1, the other one escapes. If you unsiege immediately, you can get away, but that's not really the point. The point is he's just given up this position. ByuN is building 16 Marines at a time. Because of course he is. He's ByuN. Quantity has a quality all its own. He might try to base trade. And again, the biggest risk here for Maru is getting his air units caught out of position, uncovered by the tanks. He's building 4 Ravens at a time. Still no fusion core. Just a big group of Marines. They're not even medevacs. They're getting slammed by the tanks. Many of them getting pulped, the rest getting chased. And ByuN has never met a problem that he couldn't throw a few dozen more Marines into. 3-3 upgrades finishing for Maru. ByuN about to finish +3 weapons. Armor is significantly behind. Just started, actually. As ByuN has been a half step behind throughout most of this game, it feels. Can Maru continue that advantage? He's got a forward perimeter set up. Sensor towers covering about 70% of the relevant parts of the map. Another base, 81 to 83 SCVs, and I doubt they'll go any further, as you want to have as much army supply as possible at this stage. Scrambles a couple tanks. Anti-armor missile on ByuN's Marines. And Maru is pushing up onto clearly ByuN's high ground plateau here. And are there enough tanks to stop him? 7 tanks left for ByuN to 12 of Maru. He only has... Maru has less Marines than he has any mechanical units besides medevacs, which would be weird if he had more medevacs too, so. There's scans across the board. The midi-map lighting up like a Christmas tree here. Or 4th of July celebration, more like, if you look at it. Meanwhile, slaps down a round of auto turrets. The stand-in for Marines. Probably even more efficient. Technically more DPS as well. For a moment. Though the Marines looking quite temporary for both sides. Sir! Sir, this is private property. I can... Sir! Osh. Honestly, probably better that he didn't finish that command center and can cancel it. Though, he doesn't appear to care. ByuN. We canceled it at the last second. Is he paying attention to this? I thought it was going to be dramatic. No, he's clearly focusing elsewhere. Just loses it. Meanwhile, Maru's still pushing forward. The fleet of Vikings and Ravens, with the siege tanks and just enough Marines behind, carving his way open. Anti-armor missile across the entirety of the Marines. And the Ravens? Well, there's enough siege tanks that auto turrets are not really going to get the job done. He just keeps... He's trying to carve out a little more space. He just scrambles a couple tanks, moves forward. Hasn't tried Liberators in a while, but here's ByuN. He's committing all his Ravens, and almost every single tank is scrambled and taken out of the fight. The interference matrices, there's those couple tanks in the back line. ByuN might take a volley here, takes a single shot, maybe? But ByuN commits everything and might be able to clear the field, but the auto turrets and the tank on the high ground are doing so much damage. He dug too deep and too greedily, and Maru was able to stop him before he got much further. And now, fusion core is on the way. Advanced ballistics, Caduceus reactor, maybe even battle cruisers, as Maru has climbed the tech tree, and there's only so much further to go. He maintains air control. ByuN has now 11 Ravens and 5 Vikings to 11 and 14. There's 2 to 3 scans happening at once from either side as they try to keep tabs on things, even with the sensor towers scattered everywhere. There are 3 siege tanks in the top corner, but the Vikings will move to deal with them. This is happening. The Vikings hit the deck. Stop right there! And they'll be able to take them out because Vikings get a bonus to mechanical units on the ground because reasons. They're actually an incredible counter to siege tanks on the open field. Another reason why air control, especially with Vikings, is so important. Well, Yamato Cannon is in production. The Fusion Core. The Fusion Core dance. I mean, you got that. I know. Clearly demonstrated the intent. Maru is... Well, he doesn't have the supply open for battlecruisers, but he's looking to fix that now. He made a few dozen more Marines, and a lot of them on both sides are going to be slaughtered in this engagement. The meat grinder continues to claim more victims, and Maru replaces them with 4 battlecruisers. Every single one of those Marines converted into battlecruisers. Not exactly a direct process, but it's what we're doing. And now, most interesting to me, look at the supply. 200. Now look at the banks. Almost non-existent, despite having over 4,000 minerals a minute. ByuN is constantly spending it on mostly Marines and a whole bunch of Vikings now. Maru is converting his resources into battlecruisers. They are pretty much mining that all but one base on the entire map has been taken. Maru has like 7 sensor towers. Technically, you could say he literally has 7 sensor towers. That was not an estimation. It was the exact number. Continuing to move forward. Now, does Maru use the battlecruisers to shove forward, or does he go for the dramatic jump? And so far, I think he's masked it very well. Where ByuN doesn't... Well, he might start wondering where all the Marines are. As you can only have so much supply, and when a lot less for your opponent starts showing up on the field... Why is there a mule here? The lost mule. Don't know what's happening there. Anyways, I haven't seen any scans, but here come the battlecruisers who called in the fleet. And they will be revealed. But Yamato Cannon is already complete. They're vulnerable to interference matrix, just like any other mechanical unit. It is possibly the best counter to battlecruisers in the game, as no other ability is able to lock them down for nearly as long. And no other ability actually interrupts their spell casting besides Infestors with Neural Parasite. And even that doesn't actually work that well. Also, Infestors cannot fly. I know, citation needed. But the battlecruisers? Now, what does ByuN do? He has exactly the same amount of Vikings. He has a few more Ravens. Marines will barely scratch the paint. These are fully armored battlecruisers, as the mech armor upgrades are shared with the tanks, so he was able to get them. Yamato Cannon, a scan will spot the Ravens on the way. He needs to jump! He jumps! Before the interference matrices land, but the planetary lives and will be repaired as 75 more turrets are slapped down for ByuN. And now ByuN is slaughtering his Marines in order to build more Vikings. None of them even thinking about reducing the SCV count, despite the obscenely high incomes. The orbitals, 8 orbitals, versus ByuN has 11 orbital commands. And he's building 2 more. The unlucky 13. Another round of auto turrets will destroy. What are you doing? Succeeding you, father. The auto turrets destroy their more permanent counterpart. 3 more starports on the way for Maru. But it feels like ByuN has barely crossed the halfway mark of the map at any point in this game. He had like a single drop, and a couple times he's moved his Marines forward. But otherwise, Maru has zoned him out and shoved forward, and now ByuN. His army's being slaughtered, and then the Battlecruisers show up, which is not the order that bodes well for ByuN's long-term survival. The Vikings are getting chased all the way back to their own base. He can camp the... Oh, no! ByuN split his units because Ravens and Vikings can't teleport, but Maru didn't notice the interference matrices until it was too late. Does ByuN have enough Vikings? He has enough. The Ravens are almost out. ByuN lost most of his Ravens. The Battlecruiser is still racking up the kills. He winds up a volley of shots, and a salvo kills off 3 Vikings. The Marines are just sad, for the most part here. But the Vikings can technically outrange the Battlecruisers. He has a jump ready, and there's no more Ravens to stop him. 1 Battlecruiser's taken out. Jumps another. Isn't taken down. 1 HP is enough. Jumps again. And despite ByuN maybe at the end of the day winning the battle, Maru is still very clearly winning the war. There are 24 orbital commands on this map, which I think is several more than the total amount of bases. Maru's building 2 more. There are 9 planetary fortresses. There's several stock command centers around. Just a redonkulous amount of infrastructure as these 2 brawling it out. But ByuN has lost 10,000 more resources. Only 176 Marines, which seems low, but he still has time. Maru's starting to build up a much more significant bank, and clearly his army is better as well. This time, there's no question about it. The Battlecruisers, the Viking count is higher for Maru, though a lot of them are being rallied across the map right now. The Battlecruisers, the laser bathtubs here, just blasting their way through. Anti-armor missile can soften up the cruisers. Takes one down. The Marines doing actual damage once the armor is reduced. But the same can be held true. Both Battlecruisers and Marines benefit incredibly heavily from anti-armor missile, since they fire very quickly for relatively low damage. And the lower the armor, the disproportionately more damage it does. What is happening? The solar flare. At some point when you get 20 orbital commands, you should just get vision of the whole map, like the spy upgrade in Age of Empires. Don't give them ideas. The Battlecruiser count has slowly but surely climbed to 8. The anti-armor missile on the cruisers, the Viking volleys are doing a lot of damage, but Maru has a lot of Vikings mixed in there as well. Dorito dust on both sides. Marines helping out. Battlecruiser count down to 6. Yamato volley again. The Marines, the siege tanks just standing looking up like, ah! You know what I mean. ByuN volleyed back to 150 supply. Maru has lost 7 Battlecruisers, but he has 7 more in production. So I think he's still okay for now. Fires off another volley of scans. 13 orbital. Every single base in the map taken, most of them already mined out because of the mass consumption of mules. ByuN may be able to max out one last time, but it doesn't seem like he has any answer to the Battlecruiser momentum. And it's so hard to actually turn the tide once they get here. Like, Maru is not making a mistake. He's not committing to fights where he's going to get interference matrixed across the board. He's not fighting with the Battlecruisers alone. He's fighting with the siege tanks alone, but that's a whole nother thing. And it's just a bunch of this is happening. The SCV is a surprisingly good counter here, especially since Maru is just target firing. There should be some command centers. Yeah, the SC... Well, okay, hits the deck with the Vikings, but That just frees up more supply for Battlecruisers, says every 4v4 player ever. Maru, with 3 more Battlecruisers in production. His total complement right now is 10, with 17 Vikings and 3 Ravens. There was a point where ByuN, with more Ravens than there were Battlecruisers, had a chance to just scramble the whole fleet, lock it down, and make sure, maybe win a fight and turn it from there. But now that the Battlecruisers have reached double digits, that seems unlikely. He throws out a few interference matrices. The anti-armor missile will help, but the Yamato cannons help a lot harder. And blast through about half the Vikings, will casually kill the Ravens nearby, and loses a couple cruisers for the effort, but by the time another... He just jumps away. The moment the going gets tough, the Terrans get going. The Yamato, they don't share a cooldown, which means you have them both heated up and ready to go. ByuN gonna drive right down the center. His best chance is now that most of the fleet is on cooldown, that maybe he can pick a fight. Maru has only 2 siege tanks remaining. Where are they? Maybe they just popped out of the factories. ByuN with mass marine. He keeps dropping literally dozens of mules, which is actually the only time mules will be oversaturated. He's building another orbital command because 13 wasn't enough. He couldn't scan half the map and drop 20 mules at a time. Taking down the rocks down the center, but any amount... How many tanks are in this picture? The sheer girth of the Battlecruiser fleet, despite technically being able to all stack on one another. He scrambles 3 out of 4, all 4 tanks, but there's nothing left for anti-armor missile. And the Marines will fight on the open field, and they'll die there. The white sands or snow of winter madness running red with the blood of mostly ByuN's Marines. The Battlecruisers still reign supreme. And what did I say? Like and subscribe. But also air control. And at the end of the day, after nearly 30 minutes, and almost all of it with Maru's air control, he's able to put ByuN on the ground. Hey, it's me, Winter. I went through the extra effort of having Jimmy edit this bit in just to get a few more people to check out the next match. I know watching Maru destroy ByuN with Battlecruisers is a lot of fun, but in my not-so-humble opinion, the next match, Maru versus Geralt, is just a little bit better. So hopefully you enjoy at least nearly as much as I did. And if you don't, you're not getting your money back. But thank you for watching. Good luck, have fun. I certainly hope you enjoy. Geralt is quite a quandary. Not the most highly ranked player, but one of the best late game players for Protoss. Like, more than most. I'd put him maybe not up there with Classic, but of the style of Classic, where if you get into the scenario where it's half the map, well, you slice the map mostly in half, he can handle it better than almost anyone. He will leave your... well, we'll see. We'll see. I may be foreshadowing. I'm definitely foreshadowing. But then again, it's Maru. Maru, who developed that sort of Turtle Terran style after, unfortunately, he suffered, like so many younger players, a lot of wrist issues. Apparently, literally, that was, that might be apocryphal. But he kind of transitioned into a more late game, less APM intensive, but more turtley strategy, partially because playing the Clem style, well, the now we associate with Clem, used to be more Maru-esque, of mass micro of just a few medevacs of Marines, will literally destroy your wrists. Heard there's a Terran player in Brood War who had such struggles and multiple... Flash. It's Flash. Okay. But Maru's come out the other side with a much more dynamic set of strategies throughout all phases of the game. Remember that game started with Maru slapping a siege tank down right outside ByuN's base. And it ended with mass Battlecruisers and 25, maybe even more orbital commands. So, that's the whole game right there. Using the whole Buffalo. the probe, harassing the SCV in the workplace. The SCV calls for it to be murdered, which seems proportional. But never forget, it was a Protoss. It doesn't count. Meanwhile, the Reaper headed across Geralt with, actually misses it, but the pylon does block the Reaper jump location. The Reaper cannot go in the employee entrance, the worker-only path at the back. It's 2 Stalkers out of Geralt to start. No Adept, so following up now should be a Blink build. And the Reaper is on the other side of the map. Maru with a delayed command center in order to get his tech. The Widowmine trying to burrow underneath the legs of the Stalker, but instead will settle for getting the high ground. Maru's command center slightly delayed because of that focus on the tech, and Geralt with a small victory. But against Maru, you take absolutely anything you can get, and you hold on to it. Because that's maybe all you'll have. Ask ByuN. Blink is on the way. 2 more gates. The most cookie cutter of Blink builds so far. Maru never even got into the main with the Reaper because of that. Yeah, it works. There you go. The gatekeeper pylon. Somewhat puns intended. There's no gate there. It's keeping it away. That's dumb. Moving on. A Widow Mine drop. 3 mines loaded up. The Adept, Shades on the other side, now knows the Widow Mines went somewhere. Geralt searching, but it's headed towards the most obvious angle. Geralt's headed back. This drop is quite quick, a little bit quicker than it'd usually be because Maru went for the 2 gas to start. And that means Blink isn't nearly done. The Stalkers aren't nearly in position. The Widow Mines are nearly going to end in disaster. But wait, there's more. He had one more. They were all of them deceived. Geralt, he noticed. Good reaction. Little prairie dog micro here, but the mining time. The probes. Oh, and he saves it. Oh my. Recalculating. Finally lets one go. But the income is just not it. He completely shut down the entirety of mining on not 1, but 2 bases. Which maybe isn't more valuable than killing 10 probes, but 35 probes were effectively dead for about 15 seconds there, which certainly cuts into the early game timings. Geralt will catch back up pretty quickly. Maru, again, with the slightly later command center, won't have the worker count, but by the way, there's still a Widow Mine in that medevac. It's in the red, but any Widow Mine not dead is an existential threat. Meanwhile, a siege tank actually can hit the Stalkers as they attempt to blink over. They can't walk past, but there's plenty of space to blink. But Maru's already kind of mitigated that with the supply depot to spot and block, and the siege tank on the high ground, of course. Finding a lot of success with those. +1. No. That one upgrade he doesn't have on the way. He has Stim and Combat Shield, but curiously no +1. Might be noticing now. Engineering Bay. He's kind of surrounding his orbital command with a perimeter of Engineering Bay and multiple supply depots. All this to zone out Blink Stalkers and charge lots. As he's anticipating that. There's already charge done for Geralt, so the siege tanks. He knows the Stalkers are out there somewhere. And now the Stalkers know that the tanks know. So, where do we go? Slow. Hit him in the toe. Supply continues to grow. And the Stalkers with the flow. Good blanks back. Picks off a few more Marines to try to sandbag this attack. Storm is halfway done. The Widow Mine attempted. The Templar is spotted. A Raven added in. The Templar, if he can get a feedback on that Raven, and Geralt clearly going for it. He gets up. He just popped the medevac. But Well, he did not get the feedback on the Raven, and with the auto turrets and a stim combat shield and some Widow Mines to back it up, suddenly this gets a lot more complicated. Recharges the shield battery. There's no storm available, more charge lots coming in, but Maru's just tearing through. All the Stalkers pilot and the probes are pulled off the line. He needs absolutely everyone, and even then it might not be enough. 6, 8 probes dead. He picks up, he gets out, blinks forward, gets one medevac. Fortunately, not the one full of Marines and Marauders, but Geralt loses 8 probes, plummets to a 10-worker lead. Honestly, about as good as he could have hoped for. Widowmine left over, unfortunate. Splashes over multiple zealots. Kills one, of course, but he was still building probes, almost to a detriment throughout this. He's at 7 gates, chrono boosting more. Well, chrono boosting the current gates. You can't chrono boost buildings as they're producing, as that would break everything. Or so the Terran say. Meanwhile, the double drop at the back. Geralt, anticipating it, he knows the map is dark and full of Terrans. So prepares for it just in time to get a little bit of warning. Is there enough time? He recharges and gets the storm with his dying breath. And Maru is forced away for now. The double drop put into the corner. Just gonna hang out there, annoying everyone. A probe on the other side. Just gonna build a forward spylon / reinforcement pylon. Why not? Just now building a robo, so doesn't even have observers quite yet. They're gonna need it soon. A good scan from Maru spots the timing on the 4th base, just in time to potentially do something about it. But the Widow Mines are out in front. I don't know if Geralt caught a glimpse. He definitely did now. The Templar. Meanwhile, the drops, though, taking everyone's attention, eviscerates a couple Marauders. Geralt is out of position to deal with this. Recall is available, but he's going to have to be quick if he wants to use it. This is going to get weird. The Spylon spots. If there was going to be a recall, he does it now. He brings some Templar with it. The Widow Mine's out in front. He pulls the probe to try to drag the mine shots. Does a pretty good job of it. The charge lot's mitigating this about as best as you could hope for. And the rest of the army that wasn't caught in the recall at a fortuitous placement, the feedbacks, 0 out of 5, tried to murder my family. I don't... You have a family? How? Not now, Billy. I don't... The Templar. A lot of feedback across the medevacs, and an inability to heal these stims is not Storm, but it might be good enough. The Raven is still alive. As Maru, so good, as we could tell in the previous match. No stranger to keeping those Ravens as a key part of the composition, but the Templar gliding in from either side. Geralt doing a great job of mitigating the potential of EMPs while making sure the Templar are still a threat. A single zealot for the greater good. Even gets a charge as the missile is landing. Double warp prism will be scanned, unfortunately. Geralt, the supply is still quite low for both sides, as a whole lot of skirmishes throughout the field. The Stalkers gonna be tapped on the shoulder. The Warp Prism in the main, EMP and a Viking knock it down before it can begin, including everything that was inside, so a rough exchange there. And by exchange, I mean just dying horribly. Only +1 armor against +1 weapons. That tells you how intense. 11 minutes in. The Templar drop. That Warp Prism is obscenely valuable. Most of Geralt's game is in that prism. Maru might lose a 4th command center wading through the storms. They last so long nowadays. A lot of people are impressed, but more are concerned. And the Raven lives somehow still throughout all of it. Wandering into several storms, but Maru having the presence of mind to bring it back. And so far, well, another side benefit of the Raven. The detection itself. I know that seems like the main one. But most of the time at the top level, the Raven is more for its abilities as opposed to the detection. But, por qué no los dos? Maru inching his way upwards, but wow, just 1-1 and 2-2 starting for Geralt, who has a 5th base right down the center. I've never seen anyone take that as the 5th. Geralt with that more unorthodox style of expansion. And that's why I said I think he's quite a above his weight class of a threat in the late game. As now, Maru, unable to break through. Maru with a much more conventional style, putting together the army you might... Was that the Raven? Oh, got egg ground and pwned. Nevermore, said Geralt, psionically. Gateways just scattered throughout. Going up to strong double digits. Going to be a dozen gateways. Some charge lots. Jumping the army, but almost no amount of charge lots will beat even upgraded Terran units. The rocks may be eventually taken out. The Zealots don't quite finish it off. Robos 2 and 3 in production as Disruptor. He skipped Colossi entirely. And is going straight for Disruptors, which is kind of a wild move. Meanwhile, more EMPs to try to soften things up. The Vikings just wander in. That means the Warp Prism, after the Vikings get picked off, will get a full warp in. But the Zealots are mostly wading through the storms, and suddenly the Protoss army is completely and utterly crumbling. He overstayed his welcome. He dug too deep and too greedily. And Maru just guns everything down. Geralt not realizing the tide was turning until it had already receded. And he loses 40-50 supply almost for free. It was mostly... Well, the reason he lost it was because it was Zealots and Stalkers. I was going to say it was mostly Zealots and Stalkers, so it wasn't that bad. But at the same time, that is why it was lost. He didn't have enough Templar. He didn't have the Ruptors. He fires off a shot. Gets a connection. At least a couple go. Several Marines. Fortunately, we don't have the little counter to see exactly. But we can use our eyes. The oldest counter. Almost as old as the like and subscribe counter. I know it sounds desperate. Shut up. We want 300,000. No. It's a round number. Sorry. The rich Vespine base as well. Geralt going right down. This is kind of a Terran style of expansion, where you expand forward to use them as a staging area for your attacks. Terran, because of their rally points and their production, usually wants to continue along that same line, as opposed to expanding to the sides, where you have to run all the way back to defend. But a Warp Prism, speaking of, is going to force Maru to run all the way back to defend, and Geralt sets up the attack of the planetary. Second time, is it good enough? The Disruptor's thrown out. The Storm's thrown down. And the EMPs are not enough. The base in the back left corner. The Viking will knock down the Warp Prism, but the damage is already done. 14 SCVs dead. The Widowmine's continuing to rack it up, but Geralt now has a massive... You can still see the gap from the Widowmine dropped 10 minutes ago, but Geralt has climbed since then. And the Disruptors are picking off the mines one by one. You can see the indentation. And just takes it out, and Geralt doing a great job of navigating this tumultuous stage of the game, despite a few missteps. Just as I say it, he covers for the Ruptors, fires off a double barrel, will cost him the Stalkers, gets through the rocks, into the natural. Maru coming back to defend. He can't seem to get too far forward before Geralt forces him back. But at the same time, the planetary has held in the bottom right corner. Maru's expanding forward. It's quickly getting to the point. He got a fusion core. At some point, though no Liberators yet, the Disruptor count isn't quite high enough to force them onto the field. The Disruptors will micro back, throws off a covering fire. He is able to take out the flank, and Maru's not microing on this side. He's looking at the Ruptors, but neither side's really microing. Firing off more Disruptor shots, but punching air right now as there's barely any units to deal with. Warps and 13 more Stalkers, though, on the front lines. Disruptor shot recharged. That's a big one. I said metaphorically, it actually came up almost entirely empty as Maru split at the last second. +3 weapons is done, countering the +3 armor out of Geralt. Another shot, though. The medevacs are low on energy, which means a lot of these units are vulnerable to getting one shot by a Disruptor, even the ones that wouldn't normally be. Ghosts and Marauders. Immortals being added in. He's reached 7 Disruptors. He's going for 8. The Ocho. The critical mass. Behind the 8 ball, if you would. As the Disruptors just flung out another one and another one and another 2 around the corner of the planetary. Maru trying to set up a flank, but with no Liberators and no siege tanks, he's still vulnerable. He's got to dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge. Throws out the EMP, softens up a couple Ruptors, Fadeaway shot connects. Another one down the center mass. Blinks the stalkers in the block. Disruptor shot finds the back line. Another one goes through. I don't even know if Maru can see where his units are with the medevacs overhead. An entire fleet of them. 14 medevacs is too damn high. He needed liberators a while ago, and he's building them now. I don't think it was a choice. I think Maru's just been so intently microing, he didn't realize. But another ghost comes forward. There is no detection here, but there are disruptors, and that absolutely counts. Another shot lands home. And the disruptors will continue until morale improves. More shots come raining in. The constant barrage. The medevacs wandering forward, getting ahead of themselves, and almost getting taken out by the cannons. A recall from not too far away. Maru will scan the army, spot the recall. Even a few probes pulled off the line. Geralt actually has a few too many, so Maru kind of helping him out a bit. Who's flanking whom at this point? The disruptors. Well, meanwhile, the disruptors getting caught in the middle. Medevacs knocked out of the sky. Well, Maru holding for now. Geralt charging forward. 190 to 160 supply. Geralt has had the income advantage for the entirety of 10 minutes besides one mule drop almost 10 minutes ago. Maru's down to 170. Geralt, his only weakness is how many probes he has. It's a problem. Only 105 max army. But the disruptors do more than their part. Unfortunately, loses two more. Fires off a shot, forces the micro back, and the moment the disruptors are exhausted, this moment is when Maru might be able to turn the tables. But there's still a lot of charge lots, and that's just mass marauder. Geralt realizes he has an opportunity. Without the Marines and Ghosts, the Zealots are not particularly great at engaging. But he still can't break any of these bases. That's continually the issue. The Liberators blinks forward, picks off two. Disruptor follows through. Meanwhile, the Zealots charging in. Fires off another shot, and another one. And the Marauders chasing down. The Disruptors on the high ground. Splits the difference on a couple Marines. Three Disruptors. EMP. More disruptors from the low ground. He's still zoning Maru out of his own expansion. The army's mostly ghosts. He has 11 ghosts, 9 marauders, 16 marines. But Maru still has more army supply than Geralt because he's got 99 problems, and his army supply is definitely one of them. That's just too many. He might have 3,500 income. He might be able to replace like he's a Zerg. He has 13 gates, which is actually a little low. 13 gates, 3 robos, 0 star gates. He's trying to break Maru, and he's so close. But so many Protoss have been in this position before. And so many Protoss have broken upon Maru. The planetaries will hold unless he's able to make a concerted effort. But Maru's in position with the Liberators. The Ghosts are a vulnerable... Well, Geralt didn't build any Colossi. Disruptors take 2 shots to kill Ghosts. Colossi take more than 2 shots, but of course they have the range. The Liberators are continually being added in. He's got 9 Disruptors. Again, Geralt is maxed out. He's just trying to find that fight. He's fishing right now. He's trying to bait Maru in. And Maru is taking hits, but there's a couple Ghosts. Pops a couple Ruptors. Oh no. The EMPs don't come through. Fires off a salvo. Gets a couple. Oh, and ooh, a dangerous game. Throws a curveball in the midst of everything. Fadeaway shot. Chunks up the Ghosts. And Maru is driven back yet again. But he's still mining. Not comfortably, but he's mining from 2.5 bases in total. Geralt has significantly more, but he's mined out of 4. A Dark Shrine. to complete the double Ds of destruction. But 99 probes is too many probes. I will die on that hill. And now one of our players might die on this hill, depending on how this fight goes. That set of rocks is in a dramatic position. But the Liberators, here we go. Geralt with a huge hit right off the bow. But the Liberators are a lot to contend with. He just has the Stalkers. He's moving around the corner. Maru is tearing through the front, knocking down the buildings, but the Liberators will be taken out by the Stalkers. The Disruptors are coming around. More Liberators onto the front. Disruptors through the center. Gets a couple ghosts. Another volley. Gets 2 more. But the Liberators hold. But oh no, on the corner! He gets another chunk. Both sides suffering terrible, terrible damage so far. Immortals mixed in to help with the Marauders. The Liberators come up forward. Maru accidentally picking up into Metapacks. Another Disruptor thrown out. Immortal barely living up to its name. Somehow the Nexus survives. Somehow the bases are still alive. And somehow the game will continue near 200 supply. The Liberators down the center of the map. Disruptor shot getting the few Widow Mines scattered in that Maru is still building. One shot could make all the difference. He even gets one there. Disruptor down. But the liberation is at hand. The Venn diagram of freedom overlapping and really limiting the area that Geralt is able to move. He's going to try anyways. Moves around the corner. The Marines and Marauders finally hitting the Nexus. Geralt will give it up. But he's not getting out. Oh no, the Stalkers wandered too far forward. He warps in more. He's got 6,800 Disruptor shots. The Ghost will cloak. That won't save you. But it might help after the Disruptors dissipate and there's no more observers. Maru is able to successfully push his way to the high ground, knock out the base, and take his first major victory in quite a while. But Geralt is not done. He will not stop. He will rule this sector, or maybe literally see it burnt to ashes before him. That's so many Liberators. 6 Liberators. Disruptors flung through every which way. But unfortunately, they don't cover enough ground to stop Maru. He's still stimming through. The stutter step is too good. The Immortal, it regen the shields. But remember, Storm? There's still a few ghosts mixed in. The Liberators will siege up yet again. The Disruptor's down. He's down to 3 of them. Building more and more. And Geralt has 7,300 minerals, but only 800 gas in the bank. Another massive cinematic. He has 17 gateways. But Zealots do not counter Liberators. I don't know how many Protoss need this lesson, but another fusillade of Disruptor shots. Blinks underneath, targeting the Liberators. The Disruptors are chunking up the larger groups above. Oh, it's a disaster. That was the fight. That was the hill. And that was the turn. Right up until that fight, I think Geralt still had a real chance to maybe outflank and turn it around. Because Maru, look at his bank. It's non-existent. But Geralt has no gas. He's building gas geysers at his outlying bases. He was clearly focused. He has 7 probes, 27 probes. He still has 99 probes. Did he even lose any? Maru may have done him a favor. At 200 zealots, he's only lost 25 probes. He needs to shoot the Disruptor into his mineral lines. Too many mouths to metaphorically feed. And the Liberators are starting to edge forward, and Maru tightening the noose as literally these zealots are running for their lives. Where are they gonna go? Who are they gonna call? Not even Ghostbusters would be appropriate for this situation. He's trying to break out of his own base while Maru chases him down. This has gone from a duel to an execution. Oh my. For 15 minutes, Geralt had Maru on the ropes. Or so probably everyone, but maybe Maru thought. But instead, he never quite broke him. He's expanding on the former base. It's all over but the G's. Geralt could warp in 45 more Zealots, which still wouldn't be enough to deal with these Liberators. A nuclear missile is on the way, and Maru, we all know that's for dramatic effect. A planetary destroying an assimilator. He He bullied his way, stiff-armed, into Geralt's base. Geralt tried to break out of his own base in order to escape. But to what end? His own. What a game. Geralt hanging with Maru right up until he very much wasn't. But honestly, and if it had been... Now, on any other map, the game probably would have played out the same. But on any other map, one that doesn't allow you to essentially get 3-4 bases, pretty much entirely locked down, protected from a high ground, but it's Celestial Enclave. Maru knew that. Geralt knew that. So you can't just say you put it on any other map. That's not how strategy games work. But Geralt, again, dragging it to the late game. But wait! Winter, you said that was the anti... But wait, there's more. There's one more. Or is there? At least one more. I think you'll like this. I hope you like all of them. And even subscribe. And I did say 300k subscribers. That's what we're going for. I've been thinking. Dangerous. Scares me more than Zerg. But anyways, look at the names. But for the 300k subscriber special, I'm open to suggestions. Especially since if you're seeing this or you're responding, well then, you've watched to the second anti-spoiler game, so clearly you're committed. You didn't just see the Battlecruiser game or whatever is on the clickbait and leave. Or leave when you saw it was a mirror matchup, but instead, you're committed. Anyways, thank you. You're breathtaking. And I know many of you have been here a long time. And I hope I made a lot of your days a little bit better. But I digress. I'm burying the lead here. I was thinking from every year, for 13 years, I've... 13, 14? Maybe either from every 50k subscribers or one from every year. I'll pick out my favorite cast or video, but we'll try to aim for cast to have some consistency. I used to do a little bit more variety, but I have the second channel, Winter Gaming TV, for that now. But my initial thought is for 300k subscribers to pick out a video from each year. Roughly equivalent. Ideally with the same... You could probably do ByuN versus Maru for every year for the last 13 years, but... And then just have a montage. Probably a couple hours long. One game, not full video. On that. But from... Yeah. I might suffer through looking at those. I really got to check that backlog. But at some point, I'm sure there's something there that's worth watching. Or at least in comparison. But hopefully, soon. Still a few people subscribing now. There's 7,000. But thank you for watching. No matter how long you've been here. Whether it's an hour, a day, a year, 16 years. Well, that wouldn't be possible, but close enough. Thank you for watching. Hope I made your day a little bit better. Anyways, let me introduce Team Onside. On the other side, we have Maru with his teammate Jaun. Up against Lambo and Harstem for Team Shopify. Now, Lambo I've seen punching... Well, Lambo actually, one of the most underrated players. Lambo's... this is going to be the backhanded compliment. Lambo's only issue is he's just not fast enough. Like, the German taxi build, that's his thing. He was the first player to realize you could just ferry queens over. It seems... It's one of those things that seems obvious now, like marine splitting. Maybe a little more advanced, but somebody had to do it first. Lambo has a lot of those credited to him. But he's usually just not quite fast enough on the multitasking to compete with Clem, or Hero, or Maru, or Cyril. But a lot of the time, he helps them out and practices with them. So, and I've noticed in 2v2, he's doing the same thing. Coming up with new styles and strategies. And notoriously, Zerg is quite difficult to play. Oh, okay. I looked at the adepts, and it takes a lot of concentration to keep track of who's who when you have multiple of the same race in 2v2, which is impossible not to, by the way. So, Lambo is going to get 3 bases early. Harstem with Phoenixes. Meanwhile, so, what did I say? Air control. Oh, it's a little different in 2v2, but the principles are the same. Where air control is still incredibly important, especially when Protoss is involved. And it's usually very binary, very polarizing. Either you have enough Phoenixes or you don't. And that can sometimes... Now, the same is true in PvP. It just doesn't get to that point very often nowadays. But either you have enough Phoenixes or you don't. And there's a reason why ByuN is building them. Hearthstone, I thought, was building Phoenixes, but it's actually going for Oracles. So we'll see. Meanwhile, the Adept's coming across. And the Hellions dart in. Now, what is back at home to defend? The Oracles will come back. The Hellions looking for an angle. Lambo's acutely aware of it. Oracle will light up, and now realizing there's literally no anti-air here. Maru was building Cyclones. Does not have Magfield Accelerator on the way. Only has one Tech Lab. He's going for Blue Flame Hellions. The Adepts get into the mineral line. Hearthstone loses a few probes. Meanwhile, double Stargate for ByuN. Mass Phoenixes. Hearthstone, on the other hand, has gone to ground. So there will be a timer on Hambo's build. Lambstom? Harbo. I like Hambo. Sounds fun. Hambo versus Onside. Well, I could just use their team names and probably should do that during a Team League tournament, but Hambo. It is. Shopify Hambo. And the counterattack. Just a few Zerglings, mostly scouting, but might be able to delay the third command center, which Maru boldly built on location. Lose the SCV. A fleet beacon is on the way for ByuN. The Phoenixes lifted things up. The Hellions roasting the drones underneath. The Oracles will be chased out by the Phoenixes in their own base. The Spore Call are not going to be enough. Hearthstone does have Blink. Right? In production is what I meant. But Blink is not done, and now the Phoenixes are just having their way with anything they can get to, which is most things, because they're faster and they can fly. So even with Blink done, the Stalkers can't kill off the Phoenixes very reliably. Here come the Hellions. What does Lambo actually have to deal with this? There's a single stasis, which he managed to avoid. Zerglings against Blue Flame Hellions. The drones are lining up, and they're getting charbroiled. Meanwhile, into the main. Lambo getting bullied from both sides, on the ground and from the ground picked up into the air. The Stalkers come back, but he manages to pick off the Queen, as well as at least one Overlord, and the Stalkers. Honestly, the Stalkers not even really numerous enough to reliably kill the Phoenixes without them turning on them. At least at this stage. Lambo gonna take out one of the shield batteries, but team on side with a decisive supply lead, which bodes ill, especially considering ByuN is going for carriers in the main. And that's what air control gets you. It's going to be a big commitment for Hambo to move across the map, but they must move. There's a Dark Shrine and a Spire on the way. Lambo with 57 drones. Hearthstone with 59 probes. Similar numbers on their opposite sides. But Team Onside has kept control of the match. And they're not going to let it go easily. These are siege tanks. And by the way, Maru can repair the Phoenixes and the carriers. Though I don't know if they've utilized that. Because they're mechanical units. A rare scenario, but very relevant in this exact case. Now here come the Phoenixes. The Stalkers try to target the orbital command. Maru finally repairing. The carriers have arrived. The Cyclones try to box out. That siege tank lives. And the Phoenixes covering. And with nothing underneath from the Zerg. Meanwhile, the Hellions, oh no. Maru did all that and slipped some Hellions across the map. And just as Lambo was trying to shore up his drone count, well, those shores are running dry. The Hellions with Blue Flame, 2-shot drones. Oh no. So satisfying when it works. So painful for the Zerg, which is, you know, the story of Zerg. Down to 60 drones. The Zerg player having the least workers on the map is not ideal for late game prospects, as Team Onside has kept almost all the damage off their side. A mothership is nearly complete. And the mothership cloaking works on all allies. Is there even any detection? No. There is no Terrans, obviously. There's no Overseers. Does Hearthstone have a Robo? Yes. But no observers. So the mothership could be game-winning on its own. There was a Dark Shrine, but Maru has 3 orbital commands. He's building turrets. I don't think DTs are going to find the decisive economic damage to kill the momentum of the top 2 Koreans here. A double set of rocks. Maru's clearly played, or at least anticipated this. Having enough knowledge of the map to be watching for exactly this. The double set of rocks will eventually be taken down by Hambo. But, wow, Maru with Thors. And for once, because it's 2v2 and we don't have the restrictive mods and protocols, we actually have all these cool skins. I'm not even sure which one that is, but it looks different. Maybe it's just the lighting. I know ByuN has like the Dune carriers or whatever. That look really sick, but it'd be nice if Blizzard remembered this game existed. Anyways, or maybe it wouldn't. I don't know nowadays. Lambo getting bullied again. He's lost 49 drone through the combined efforts of the Sky Toss and the Mech Terran. The 2 most frustrating things for Zerg to deal with combined. He's got mass corruptor, a whole congress of corruptors up here. Hearthstone has 27 stalkers. Lambo has 18 corruptors. That's not even close to enough. Like, this is... We have the whole picture here. And I'm sure they have their suspicions. But Maru's army on its own might be enough. Well, one, the corruptors would do nothing, because there's no air units. But he has 6 Thors, 8 tanks. He has 2-2 mech. On its own, I think Maru could win the fight. But with ByuN, the chances of winning the war are much higher. The DT's slipping in. There are missile turrets and some charged lots here. Can he warp in from that angle? Puts on the low ground. He's going to try to come to the high here. The carriers will protect for now. The stalkers are headed north, trying to carve up. Oh, well, I don't know, Kev. In this case, the literal sense. And Blue Flame Hellbats aren't bad against Zealots either. Oh, my. What is the... Oof. Weapons great. I don't think the DTs are getting through here. They could also be trading resources, not that they need to, but Maru could easily hand ByuN another 2,000 minerals if he needs some more cannons nearby. The carriers will be knocked out of the sky. And actually, best case scenario for Hambo, finally, the hubris of Team Onside gets him caught in the open field. The mothership active cloaking. The corruptors will completely obliterate everything in the sky. Hearthstone blinks forward, which will hasten his destruction to Maru's ground army. And Maru is the only survivor. Maru's at 200 supply. Everyone else? Lambo's building more corruptors, which is definitely misreading the room right now. Hearthstone is doing his best. But 11 Thors with 2-2. Hearthstone has +2 weapons and +1 shields. Maru will preside over the ashes. All of the Sky Toss knocked out of the sky. Which sounded dumb, but, you know, that's where they're supposed to be, and they're not there, so it's sad. Thors are here. DT's doing their best, but scans come through. The Caustic Spray takes out 1 command center, which will mildly inconvenience Maru. An Immortal just gets completely exploderated. And who will stop him? Attempting counterattack is optimistic at best. More carriers have arrived. They look so cool. There's no stop. Like, Lambo and Hearthstone have not too low of supply, but the army value and the upgrades. Like, this is the platonic. This is the box art. He has there are carriers and Thors, and that's pretty much. There's 1 siege tank. But otherwise, it's pure carrier Thor. Oh, there's a Hellbat. All right. Diversity quota. Yeah, well, certainly looks cool, but definitely not for Team Shopify. Maru and ByuN just running the table here. They had the momentum the whole game, and there were no exceptions to their rule. Not sure what they're waiting. Oh, Hearthstone has another army. And Blinding Cloud, best case scenario by far. But the Zealots are melee units, which means Blinding Cloud doesn't actually help that much. There's a few DTs, recall on the carriers. Here's some Ultras, which also not so great against Thors. And the Thors survive. 14 kills, 10 kills, 16. Many of them Ultras, Corruptors, DTs. Dozens of supply killed per Thor. And Maru continues. Fully operational Thors. 3-3 upgrades. Near 200 supply still, and ByuN is joining them there. Hearthstone trickling in a few Zealots. Lambo still has a surprising amount. Well, it's because of the Corruptors. He was ready, and he completely obliterated the Sky Toss. He denied everything. But air control for Zerg is not the same. The Corruptors they can't even do their corrosive spray and make everyone uncomfortable. It only works on buildings for some reason. So the Thors are here, and they are more than ready to now, it's all over, but okay, all right, guess. I appreciate fighting till the end, but this is the post-credit scene. Lambo will spitefully drool some caustic spray over a couple planetaries. Maru has... he just moves the command center over. There's a Void Ray here. The Thors. 34 kills. There's over 100 kills with these Thors combined. And the carrier count is so... Wow, that is a lot. That's 12 carriers. The Corruptors aren't enough. G! Maru and his trusty sidekick ByuN just completely obliterate Hambo and claim victory. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Maru Destroys Everyone. I hope it made your day a little bit better. Thank you to Wardi for another cool format. And thank you for watching. If you got the means of motivation, be awesome. Check out Patreon, YouTube membership, but you're liking and subscribing. It's still free. At least for now. Make sure to check out the second channel, Winter Gaming TV. Give me suggestions for the 300k. There's a whole checklist here, okay? Just bear with me. Give me suggestions for the 300k special. And thank you to our Mule Tier patrons, Big Jiggy, Devin Door, Kate, Mario, Soup. Glad you still enjoy. All right, we got Jimmy. Oh, yeah, and check out this video that Jimmy picked out just for you. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Thank you for watching. BGL.